Here we go, the ML Sports Platter back with you, and we bring him in, the VP of Business Development at Batavia Downs Gaming and Western OTB. And yes, make no mistake about it, that other title reigns supreme. He is a horse racing analyst for this program as well. It's my good buddy, Ryan Hasenauer. Don't forget to check out all of the festivities, all horse racing season long, plus the concert series, Stay, Play, Dine, and Win. People are winning big at Batavia Downs Gaming, so check out the website for all of that and more. Make a trip out as well, which I got to do really soon. As you know, Ryan, let's bring him in to talk some Preakness and more here on the Platter. The website, by the way, is BataviaDownsGaming.com. Ryan, welcome back.
Hey, thanks for having me. Yeah, Preakness week. So we're moving and shaking here. Just got the hot picks in from Nick the Railbird and getting all of our free programs ready to distribute out to the OTB branches, Easy Bets, and of course right here at Batavia Downs.
So it's obviously, for people, it is a disappointing Preakness because Sovereignty is not running. And I mean, you and I, we before we came on, I mean, we're telling the truth. I mean, we want the best for the sport. We want to cover the sport. We want to talk about the sport. Sometimes they don't make it easy because there's certain decisions that are being made, owners, trainers. It's wild, though, because Sovereignty not being in there, Bill Mott, he's done this before. I mean, he's run one of his Derby winners, and it was a long time ago. But it's a lot of it has to do with the breeding now, man. I mean, they're breeding them to stamina, to speed, not necessarily speed and stamina. More to a 7 furlong, and it's, well, I won the Derby, bye-bye. It drives you crazy. We're still going to have a race. Kind of tie it all in for us to lead off here. No Sovereignty, but the field there with Journalism, who people did like to win the Derby. So take me through the 9-horse field and no Sovereignty or Derby winner. How are you feeling emotionally and kind of as we get going here? Because you love the sport as much as I do.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head, Mike. I mean, obviously, as the person who runs, the marketing here for OTB and for Batavia Downs, we always want to see the Derby horse in the Preakness. That's what's best for business. But obviously, without them there's still an opportunity to make money because really, if you're betting on these races as a newbie or as a casual bettor, what you're trying to do is make money, right? And if the Derby winner was in this race, he might be going off at like 8-5 or, or even lower odds. You do have the favorite, I think. Journalism is 8-5 actually right now, himself coming in second, of course, in the Derby. But, to make money on the sport, you got to beat the favorites, or you got to get lucky enough to maybe just make a small bet where you bet all chalk and that's what comes in. So there's still money to be made on this race. There's still a reason to bet on it. You got 9 horses. I remember there's been Preaknesses where there was 8 or 7. So at least you got a 9-horse field that makes it where there's a little bit more money in these pools where people are trying to cover multiple horses. And again, whoever wins this race is going to go up against Sovereignty in the Belmont Stakes most likely. And that's a head-to-head matchup that we can tout as the industry and say, hey, now it's the head-to-head, and let's say Journalism wins this race. It'll be the rematch. Can Journalism now beat him in the Test of the Champion at the Belmont Stakes? Of course, it's not the Test of the Champion like it usually is. It's Saratoga this year. And interestingly enough, Mike, I don't know if you knew this. Do you know that they're relocating the Preakness next year to Laurel Park because they're doing the big thing at Pimlico? They're doing a renovation, which means we won't have a Triple Crown race that will include all the usual spots for several years now because with Saratoga having had it the last year and this year, then next year Pimlico will be not hosting it. So it'll be kind of crazy.
Right. Well, I mean, Pimlico was built in 1498. So it probably needs some. And by the way, adding to your point here, the year after next, I believe they've got the new governing body running the Maryland Jockey Club. So that's another thing to pay attention to with how they're going to try to vote for the Preakness. Are they going to, is the calendar going to be the same? Because the one thing with this is that, 2-week, 3-week, now they're starting to get into, well, if we need more time, well, of course they're going to get into this, right? So now if you have somebody saying no to the Preakness for a Derby winner, a Sovereignty, and a Bill Mott, and it's, well, the horses don't want to run it either with this calendar. Oh, well, now we have to switch it. Well, we have to switch it because they're deciding they don't want to do it and they're breeding them a different way, which creates, in my opinion, a 10th place trophy society. We've done it this way for however long, and it makes a Triple Crown winner that much more special. But now we're going to get a Triple Crown winner maybe in the future with a calendar that's easier based on how they're breeding, which leads me to, I don't know, another playoff team in Major League Baseball. It's the same thing.
Right. It's not going to have the same, weight to it. Right. I mean, and for a long time, Mike, you and I were doing these, podcasts and talking and, people are like, oh my gosh, like this is too hard. This is too hard. And then thankfully in 2014, the year after California Chrome almost did it, we had American Pharoah who did do it. Or there was 2016. Sorry.
California 15.
Yeah.
Pharoah?
15.
Yeah. Yep.
And then in 2018, you had Justified do it. So it was like, look, it can be done. And I don't think either of those horses went up against really weak fields. I thought they were pretty decent fields they went up against.
Yeah.
Yeah, if all of a sudden the Preakness folks are like, nah, we're going to go ahead and we're going to make ours 3 weeks after the Belmont, so we're going to be the third leg of the Triple Crown, and now it's going to be a 3-week thing. From a TV standpoint, that's not the worst thing, because all of a sudden you're going to get people with one big horse race. You'll have the first weekend in May, the first weekend in June, and then maybe the first weekend in July. Maybe make it part of 4th of July weekend. I don't know. But there could be some things that they could do to make it so it was more of an event. But at the same time, for those purists and the people that like it so that, look, the horse has to race within these very finite amounts of rest. Yeah, you're going to, like you said, you're going to make it so it's not the same. It won't be the same thing.
Yeah. And for the Triple Crown lovers, or the hope for it and all the rest, we're like, oh, it's okay that they sit them. We understand it, defend it all day long. If you want to know how huge it is for the sport, think about Belmont Day when you're leading up to a chance at it. When California Chrome, even though I didn't think Chrome was a Triple Crown horse, and I was in person for the Preakness with Chrome. I mean, right there. And I finished, and I remember turning to my sister and dad going, I don't know. It doesn't look like a Big Brown, or doesn't look like, some of the other ones we've seen, but was still a very good horse, and it's had an unreal career. But think about that Sunday when you wake up knowing, oh my goodness, like we're one race away. And think about when Pharaoh won it. Go back in time on that Friday morning when Pharaoh was just doing a little bit of a practice session and a walkthrough on the track, and almost 20,000 people showed up in Saratoga to see Pharaoh. So the Triple Crown still means something to the sport.
Absolutely. And I think, that's going to be the push and the pull to this, because you could say, look, let's not make any bones about it. We know that horse racing's in a tough spot.
Yeah.
And just like with any other sport that's struggling, whether it's the WNBA or some of these other ones, you've got to have a champion. You've got to have a face, so to speak.
Right.
Well, the tough thing with the Triple Crown is they're always 3-year-old horses. You have a new face every year. The only regulars are the trainers, the jockeys, and the owners. And not to say that none of them don't have personality, because, everyone's got a very opinionated opinion about Bob Baffert or maybe even Todd Pletcher or some of these guys, or some of the jockeys. And, they find the jockey for whapping the horse too many times when he was doing the thing in the Derby. Yep. You've got a situation where if you say to yourself, if we're going to grow this sport or stem the slow decline of it, we're going to need to make it so it's more event driven, because make no mistake about it, the Derby is just so huge, and the drop off to the excitement around the Preakness, Derby winner in it or not, is definitely, a significant thing. I remember looking at our scandal numbers, and we did over 1 million. We did better than we did last year at OTB from all of our different sources. But you can always look back and say, geez, the Preakness is always like half the Derby wagering, because you don't get as many casuals. You don't get as many people who are just checking it out for the day. There's not these parties. I mean, Mike, I got to tell you, there was so many people that reached out to me this year prior to the Derby, and they're like, oh, I'm having a thing at my house. Who do you like? Can I get some free programs for the people at my house? And of course, I'm happy to do that. I'll email it to them, and they can print them on their own printer. We're printing out 1-0 Batavia Downs too. But it's like, wow, like, all these people are reaching out more than ever before to talk about what's happening here with all of these, with the Derby.
Right.
And there's not a peep for the Preakness. People are like, well, are we going to have hundreds of people here for the Preakness? I got the Tacos and Tequila event, which I've done for, I think, 3 or 4 years now. But the Tacos and Tequila event that we have at Batavia Downs helps boost my Preakness numbers, because everyone's a fan of tacos. Not everybody's a fan of tequila. But if you're going to get a couple of, tequila samples in you alongside of some tacos, and then, oh, by the way, there's a free bet on the Preakness, and you can enjoy being around other people for a big race. That's what we're trying to do here on a small scale, is to manufacture these events. If I'm part of any sort of horse racing conglomerate who's looking at trying to drive the sport and try to make things better, it's going to be a real tough sell to tell me, hey, look, if all of a sudden the Preakness gets moved to 3 weeks after the Belmont or a month after the Belmont, so it coincides every year with 4th of July weekend, and say, now we can make this the marquee, sporting event of 4th of July weekend, all due respect to the Nathan's hot dog eating contest. That would be a network executive's dream. And quite frankly, somebody who could say, hey, look, every year we can make a nutrition. Every year, 4th of July weekend, it's the Preakness, and we're going to be betting on the race. And it could be the last race, and we're going to crown an American champion on America's weekend. It all writes themselves. And if it's going to be something that's going to get more people involved, as somebody who loves horse racing, you're like, that's not the worst thing, because we're trying to get people excited about the sport, because it's not going that direction right now. So I'm torn. I'm torn from my marketing side, but then I'm also torn from like my traditional horse, betting loving side. It's really, really tough.
So you're saying that they would take you're saying loop Preakness across over on July 4th weekend, and Belmont would be in the middle?
So you go first weekend would be Derby, second, and then however many weeks later when the Belmont takes place, right? Because Belmont's technically 5 weeks
In
after
June,
the
yeah.
Derby. Yeah, first weekend in June. Then you go the first weekend in July would be the Preakness. You'd have one marquee event, just how golf does it, right? Golf
Yeah.
doesn't have a major,
But the order wouldn't be the same though either.
the order wouldn't be the same either.
Yeah.
So
It'd be
as a horse
so
racing
different.
purist, you'd be like, I don't like this. But if somebody's like, let's
Right.
make it so horse racing doesn't die a slow death.
Yeah.
And we stem the tide of people, because if you get something to make it a marquee event, more people will get involved, more people will be excited, and then more people bet. There was a time where the Derby wasn't necessarily declining, but it's definitely stagnant for a while there.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, here comes TV, here comes all the celebrities. Celebrities were at the Derby, but all of a sudden, with the advent of TV and social media, and the guy who owns Sandman doing all his stuff, getting people excited about his horse. There's a way about this to maybe make things work for horse racing long term, but I think it's going to unfortunately come at the expense of some of the traditionalists. I mean, the DH in MLB, the runner on second base at the 10th inning, the pitch count clock. I mean, there's all these little things that are part of the game, and some people don't agree with them, but at the same time, it is what it is.
Well, I think there's a difference between change and making it artificial. Baseball, the pitch clock helps. It's change. The DH was change. Putting a ghost runner on and and making the bases bigger, that's artificial. I mean, that's a complete disaster. It's almost like you don't even have to really work to get a run home in the extra innings. And so there is a little bit of a difference. And I think the same thing could be said of horse racing as well. And it would also be weird to see like Derby, then way longer Belmont, and then back to short and Preakness. I mean, it's all over the place. But let's get back to this current Preakness to close things up. Wanted to have any kind of storylines you think people need to know about, and then maybe link that into the back end about more stuff at Batavia Downs game. You wanted to kind of do a 1-2 punch there to close, but I love the way you just broke that last stuff down for the future, because we're heading for something. There's no doubt.
Yeah, that's the thing. We got to be realists about the sport. So that's just one of those things. So if we want to get into the horses here, so the number one's goal oriented. Baffert's horse, he's got Flavian Pratt on the back. He's a pace setter. A lot of pace setters, Mike. It's going to be really interesting to see if it's nice weather, 88 degrees with very limited precipitation. There's going to be a lot of participation, but not a lot of precipitation. We're thinking that because I knew my bets were cooked, by the way, during the Derby. I knew my bets were cooked halfway through the race. And the reason I knew is because the fractions were too slow. So I said, all right, if these fractions are slow, basically there was a stat that NBC had put out the day before, because it was, I don't know if you watched the Oaks, but it was raining all day. And so the race got delayed. And so they put up this stat, and they said that in any race where the first, not the first half, but to the half pole, right? The first half mile, if the half mile was under 45 seconds, the average position of the winning horse was somewhere between like 16th and 18th or something crazy, where it clearly came from the back, because the early fast fractions make it so the closer ends up getting up there. The fast fractions did not happen in the Derby. You had a 45 point something half mile. And as soon as I saw it, I said, all my closers are cooked. They're not going to be able to catch up, because the horses at the front are going to still have enough gas to outlast them. And, Sandman tried to make a move at the end. He finished 7th or whatever it was, but there's too many horses above him that were running their pace setter stalking race, and they were ahead of him. So with goal oriented, he's a pace setter horse. He set the pace on a sloppy track, and he pulled away. Baffert, of course, has the most Preakness wins at 8, and Flavian Pratt won the Preakness back in 2021. The 2 is the journalism, of course. The second place in the Derby. He had a little bit of a stumble at the start too. So maybe if he didn't have that little stumble and he tired late, and again, he's on a shorter track, right? 1.25 miles. This is 1 3/16. He's a clear-cut favorite, and I think he's going to probably have a day. Again, you can still make money at your OTB, at westernotb.com/locations to find the location near you. At your branch, at your Easy Bet, at Batavia Downs, or on Batavia Bets. You can still make money if you just maybe say, look, I think journalism's going to win, which I think is going to happen. You key him at the top. You only have one horse at the top. Now, he's got to win for you to cash your exotic bets. But if you say, all right, I'm going to have the 2 at the top, and then this is the combination underneath, not going to cost you as much money, because you keyed a horse on top. And if it comes in, as long as some of the long shots come in here, which we'll talk about in a second, I think there's money to be made. So American Promise was the third choice or fifth choice betting favorite at the Derby, but he finished a disappointing 16th, Mike. You wonder if it's because he's got the word America in his title. Maybe he got some of that money because people are like, all right, love that.
Yeah.
Justifies Kid, the 2018 Triple Crown winner.
Yeah.
He's looking to bounce back. And, of course, Dwayne Lucas won last year's Preakness. Heart of Honor is the 12-1 horse. This is a great one for the ladies out there. You got a female jock here. And you don't really have a lot of that happening these days. Not only do you have a female jockey, you've got her dad as the trainer, so that's really exciting. A father-daughter combo for the number 4 Heart of Honor. Stalking horse, the only foreign horse in the field. Heart of Honor. It says GB next to his name at your free program that you get at your local OTB. So trained really in Great Britain, raced a lot in the United Arab Emirates. He was second in the UAE Derby, which is like, wow, second in the Derby. And that Derby, the winner gets to go on to the, with enough Derby points, gets to go on to the race in the Kentucky Derby.
Right.
Except the UAE Derby winner finished dead last in the Derby, in the Kentucky Derby. So if that's your measuring stick, not great. But again, the son of AP, Honor AP, the fourth in the 2020 Derby. That it'll be interesting to see if Heart of Honor maybe hits the board, as they say, maybe finishes third or fourth, rounds out your trifecta or your superfecta. Pay Billy's the 5. He's 20-1. He's a press to pay stalking horse. He's what they call the local horse. All of his 8 starts have been in the Mid-Atlantic region. And he's the son of the 2019 Kentucky Derby 4th place finisher. He won his last 2 races, which is great. But he's got slower speed figures. So he's really going to be trying to level up here, right? As they say, go up a class. So we'll see if that works for him. River Thames, and I think that's how you say it, is Thames, not Thames, because it's named after the river that's in England. Brad Ortiz Jr. is the jockey with Todd Pletcher. This is Todd Pletcher's horse in the race. And he also will try to press the pace and stalk towards the front. This horse had enough points to get in the Derby, Mike, but they decided to point him at the Preakness instead. He's a sprint horse, so this shorter race suits his style better than the Derby probably would. And again, if you win the Preakness, no matter how you do in the Belmont, as long as you got one Triple Crown Jewel win in your portfolio, this horse will stand and command $50,000 every time he's doing his thing there. So they were probably smart to skip the Kentucky Derby and then come back for this. He's the 9-2 second choice favorite, if I'm not mistaken. Actually, third choice behind the next one, number 7, which is Sandman. John Velazquez is now going to get the ride here. Ortiz had the ride the last 2 times, but they're going to switch over to John Velazquez with Mark Cassey as the owner. This is a gray horse. He finished 7th in the Derby. My horse for the Kentucky Derby, second choice in betting when the race went off. But that slow early place, which we just talked about, in that sloppy track, made his attempt to close out at Churchill very difficult. He'll need some fast fractions at the front in order to maybe catch those sprinting horses at the front. So we'll see what happens. But of course, Ortiz, Jose Ortiz, who was on Sandman in the last race, he now rides number 8, Clever Again. And there's a lot of talk about this horse as well. Another pace setter horse. He's got 3 lifetime starts and 2 wins, including the Hot Spring Stakes at Oaklawn, down at Oaklawn Park there on March 30th. His breeding, though, is an English and Irish turf horse. But he's the son of American Pharaoh, but he's going up in class. Again, if you look at his stats here, he's got a 108 speed figure, which is really tops in the class here. Wow. Besides, of course, the 1 and the 2 who have unbelievable speed. So, he's got the speed, but he's got to see if he's going to race against better horses, how he's going to do. And the last horse, the number 9 horse, is Ghostger. I'm not exactly sure how to say it. I'll have to look that up. But Luis Saez is the jockey. Brendan Walsh is the trainer. This is another press-to-pace stocking horse, a gray horse. He's a younger horse. Now, Mike, I don't know if you knew this. Every horse, when they're born, technically, their birthday is January 1st. That's what they say. So that when your horse is 3 years old, then he's allowed to race in the Kentucky Derby. Well, not all the horses are actually born on January 1st. So if you have a late birthday horse, he might not be developed enough to be racing in all these Derby prep races when they come due, because, the Fountain of Youth and some of these other races, they're going off in February down in Florida. So he was a little bit late to the Derby prep stuff. But he ended up winning the Lexington Stakes, which gave him like 20 Derby points. But it was still too young, and they didn't want to race him in the Derby, so they didn't do that. He is the son of Nyquist, the 2016 Derby winner.
I was there for that.
Yeah. Were you really? How nice.
Nyquist.
But he's got to improve his speed figures. He's got 96, 94, and 80 on here. And while he is getting better, which is good, it's still not great compared to some of the other races, or the horses in this race. And it's interesting because he's a press-to-pace horse, so he's going to try to keep up. If you see this horse maybe drop back, I know it's an 9-horse field, but if you see this horse at like 5th or 6th, he's going to have a tough time because the horses behind him are going to go, and the horses ahead of him clearly are racing the same type of race he's trying to race, but they're ahead of him. So if this number 9 is stuck in that 4, 5, 6 area, I'm going to be a little bit nervous for him if they're halfway through the race and he's there. I don't know if he'll have enough in the tank to get past everybody. So lots of great horses. I still think the 2 is probably my pick. I definitely want to throw in, some of the speed horses like Clever Again at 5-1. I'm so torn on Sandman because he really burned me, Mike. He burned me in that Derby. I had him in like every pick, and he wasn't even close.
I know.
So, maybe I'll use him for 3rd or 4th. And then River Thames is definitely a horse that I think is going to be well suited to this race course.
Very cool. Well, we've gone pretty long today. Just how about in the last minute or so, you mentioned already a few things that you're doing at Batavia Downs Gaming, but loop in that for the folks. Maybe last minute decision. Hey, we're going to go out. We can't seem to get rid of the rain in the Northeast, but hey, last minute, let's go to Batavia Downs Gaming. What do you have for people?
It's always sunny. It's always sunny here inside of Batavia Downs. So come on out on Saturday. We've got wagering at the ITW down in the Park Place room. You can also go in the Park Place room with $35 and get yourself a ticket for tacos and tequila. 2 hours of tequila sampling. You're going to get a taco bar. You'll be able to try all those different tequilas, and you'll get a $5 wager on the Preakness Stakes, which you, of course, will watch with us inside the big room on the big screens at 7:01. And again, there's all kinds of great things going on. BataviaConcerts.com. That's where you buy tickets for this. You can buy tickets, of course, in the lobby when you arrive as well. But we've also got all of our summer concert series stuff. You can check it out there. ZBTB, which is a Zach Brown tribute band's coming. There's also lots of other third-party events that are coming out. Cool. The schedule comes out here pretty soon for the Buffalo football team. And when that comes out, we're going to be setting our Legends and Stars schedule for the winter, or for the fall, I should say, as well as some other fun family events and some other things. So, yeah, just stay up to date on our socials, Mike, at facebook.com/Batavia Downs, and you can see what's going on here.
Yeah, no doubt about it. BataviaConcerts.com, BataviaDownsGaming.com. When you're there, you can go check out the gift shop as well. I saw that on the social not too long ago. A lot of cool things there to shop for everybody, dads, grads, whatever the case may be. And he is Ryan Hasenauer, previewing the Preakness Stakes and breaking down possibly the future of horse racing as well. He's the VP of Business Development, Horse Racing Insider, and Analyst. And, of course, we appreciate their support of the ML Sports Platter out there at Western OTB. Get to your local OTB all week, and Batavia Downs Gaming. Thanks a lot, Ryan. Really appreciate it, man.
Thanks so much, man. We'll see you guys. Thanks.